Hi, I'm Roxane Padilla, and I have served many roles at Yes. I was a health educator, I was a program manager, and now I sit on the board. So I started with Yes since its inception with Dr. Bishop, and we bought a bunch of pizzas for kids and asked them what they were really passionate about. And the three topics that came up most were teen pregnancy prevention, violence prevention, and nutrition and fitness, which is actually topics that we were really excited to work about. And so we wrote a grant to the state, and we got funded to do health education in the classroom using a peer-to-peer model, which shows that just peers in general take advice and information, and they receive it better. They're hearing it from someone their own age. It does. So,
Were you always interested in being a health educator, or is that something you kind of came across?
so I initially started in the school-based health center at Clemente as a medical assistant. And when this came up, I was not necessarily interested or had a passion to do it, but it was an opportunity. I thought it'd be different to take what I was doing already with the patients that came in and kind of spread the information to more, because not every student was going to the health center.
Right.
And so I definitely was excited to try it out. So for a little bit, I was like doing part of my time in the classroom, and then the rest of my time still being an MA in the health center. And they just were able to find more funding to put me on full time as a health educator. And then when our program manager left, I kind of filled that role and became the program manager until I left in 2012.
Okay, man, you were there for a while.
I was.
So that means
I'm a yes lifer. I'm a lifer for yes.
Yeah. So what would you say are some highlights of being a health educator? Maybe one specific time in the class that really stood out to you, some of those like gold moments.
That's a good question. I think just being with the students and kind of getting their perspective on their own health and seeing why they thought the issues that they had in their community were their issues, right? And getting to have dialogue with them. I think for me was the reason why I wanted to do it full time as opposed to the half and half, because we were able to dive into so many more topics other than health, right? Health is such a broad term,
Right.
and we were able to talk about like mental health, community health, self care, right? Like how we care about ourselves will affect how we care for others. And so you were able to have more of a conversation in the classroom during the class time than I would if, like, say, they came in for physical, and it was like a 10-minute visit.
Right. I imagine out of all three components, probably nutrition and fitness would be the least interesting thing to teach in class. What do you think is like was effective in getting those like messages or people engaged in class to talk about like eating healthy?
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that we developed it in a way that it was interactive. I mean, I don't know anybody that doesn't like something they can touch
Right.
or do, right? Like, that's one of the ways people learn. And so making it important and then like putting how does this affect me, right? And understanding how nutrition and fitness like affects an adolescent. I think yes, did a great job when I was there, and as it continues on to really put real life perspective, and even make it relevant for adolescents. Because in just doing research, there's a lot of curriculum geared at elementary school age, a little middle school, and a lot for adults, because they go through chronic diseases, but nowhere for that adolescent age range. And I think it's so important and so beneficial that yes, that's to kind of fill that void.
Right. So since you've been with the program since it began, was there always a summer boot camp?
There was. That was one of the main components of yes, was really incorporating that. We realized during school people get busy, they have other after school activities, and so we really wanted to designate a time that allowed the students to really probe and ask questions and not feel rushed, and do more real life experiences for the in class learning, right? So when I was there, we talked about nutrition and fitness, and then actually took the students to UNC for their team and performance class, so they got to see how athletes trained and how they were tested in understanding the importance of health and fitness and how they correlate together, right? Because people, I think, oh, if I exercise, I'm healthy.
Right.
Or if I'm eating right, I'm healthy. And don't understand how those two are, like, they work in tandem with each other. So it's things like that. To get them into something, like even as a career, right? Like, oh wow, I really liked what that woman was doing at the performance, but I could do that. How do I do that? Oh, they do it at UNC. Oh, we went to UNC. This is college. Some of them have never even stepped out of the community. And so that was so vital for us to have those. And it's definitely changed and evolved into different things throughout the years. So I think one of the main goals and ideas of it was that the health educator and the peer educators had that time to come too, because they're also, while their main responsibility and role is to like go in the classrooms and help support their students, we as the health educators also had a role in supporting them as adolescents, right? We've had students who have had substance abuse problems, family home issues, and that was a safe space for them to kind of feel like there was an adult in the room to hear what they had to say, and then channel that into helping their peers.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna move on. So since you're kind of the yes guru, the yes lifer, what things do you think would need to be changed as part of the program?
That's a really good question. It's interesting, right? Because I don't know if there's anything that needs to be changed per se, but maybe, like developed. So I would really like it to maybe be a more comprehensive program in that, we want to empower students, right? And with adolescents are ever evolving, right? So when we did this, that was in 2008. And while those issues still exist and they are prevalent, there are also other issues that have existed, that have taken shape, right? Suicide has become a thing and bullying has become a thing, right? I could think of a few things, or just even kind of revisiting the whole idea of the pizza and the focus group and saying, hey guys, this is what we work on. Is there anything else? Do you see anything else? So I'd like it to be a more comprehensive program to encompass all that. I would like maybe to see, that's a tough one, right? Because I think we hit on so many important things. So in order to change or do more, we have to maybe take that or develop that more. Maybe having more youth input. I think if we're a youth development program and more health promotion program, I think it's these adolescents now are so much more involved than I was when I was a young person. They're so smart. Like I would love for them to be more visible on the board, right? Maybe not a student who's in that, but maybe a student who says, I want to help, but that's just a lot of commitment, right? And finding different forms for these students to participate in. Yeah. I mean, that's what the top of my head. Yeah.
I like that. I like that idea of a board. Since these recent elections, a lot of young people who aren't able to vote kind of feel like they lost their own agency because they can't really vote or necessarily participate because they're not of age, but maybe there are other things they can do. How do you think YES could encourage students in light of, these recent events in regards to the election?
Yeah, I think the allies, definitely the allies. I mean, we work with communities of color, and we work with young people, and both of those groups are marginalized, right? So definitely making sure that we support them, getting them more involved in the actual political process. I mean, I'm an adult and it's still very unfamiliar territory to me. So exposing them that early and seeing how our laws affect them I think the fear is that things are going to change. But what that change looks like, the process of that. I think that, fear sets in, right? And so it's not going to happen overnight. But what does that process look like? And helping them understand it, I think, decreases the fear a little bit. I wouldn't say eliminate it, but the fear is no one's going to come knocking on my door and taking my family tomorrow. There's a process. I think that's definitely how we can get involved and get involved with movements. I mean, in Humboldt Park specifically, there's such a strong sense of community, of cultura, and I think it's so important that, well, again, this is our main focus is health promotion, and but advocacy is huge. And so, connecting them with those resources in the community, like the Puerto Rican agenda, or connecting to resources on the west side, that's predominantly African American, and trying to bridge that gap, right? Again, if they have an ally, like the health educator there to help that, I think that's easier than saying, okay, now I want you to do it on your own. And I think that's what we can serve is that liaison to those resources. And helping them understand the process.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome.